Hi and welcome to Know Your Rights. My name is Chris Fisher and this video is part of a series on divorce. We're going to focus on protecting wealth and assets today in association with Curry Law Group. And from Curry Law Group, we have Louis Lazaro. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, let's get right to protecting wealth. You're going to get a divorce. You got a lot of money, a lot of assets, and you don't want the other person to start draining your accounts as soon as you let them know. How do you guard against that?
Well, Chris, probably the best way to guard it is to meet with an attorney and start discussing a plan on how to best protect your assets. Hopefully, you're not in one of those marriages where the spouse runs into the account, drains it, and then throws it somewhere else. Attorneys can apply to the courts for injunctive relief to try and obtain orders to protect assets and keep the other spouse from taking them or misusing them. There has to be a fairness involved, and so you can't take away all the assets from one spouse just because they might take it all away. They have to be able to maintain their living standard during the process of the divorce. And so the best protection you can get, meet with an attorney, have a discussion, and find out the facts of your particular case and whether or not the law will apply to it.
So can you do one of those things like if, I knew I was going to get a divorce, could I go and remove half the money and just put it in a different account and just kind of hold it there before I, let my spouse know?
Actually, that's not a bad idea because the law presumes that you both own marital assets equally. And so taking half of the assets and putting them into a separate account so that you have those assets, as well as leaving the other half for the other spouse so that she has those assets, is not a bad idea, so that way you can continue to pay the common and everyday expenses of the marriage. You don't want the mortgage to go under, you don't want the electricity to go out, you want to make sure you feed your kids, and so you guys have to continue to normally spend the money as you would normally to maintain the household.
Are there any protected assets like family heirlooms, pension plans? If you wrote an album back in the 70s that you're getting residuals on long before you had gotten married, are those things protected?
Actually, they are, Chris. Those are called non-marital assets. Those are assets that were acquired by you prior to your marriage and have been kept separate and apart from the marital assets. They maintain their non-marital status, and so those properties will likely be adjudged to be non-marital and given to the owner, the original owner of that asset, which would be the person that acquired them.
What about businesses? You got multiple businesses, business partners. How does that affect? Like if you get a divorce, will all of a sudden that taint the relationships you have with your business partners?
This depends. This is a very complex question because it really does matter in terms of how that business was created. There is likely a contract involved, as well as the operating agreement of a limited liability company. All these things control. If it was acquired during the marriage, it is still a marital asset. However, the judge will not take it apart or destroy the asset. It wants to maintain the asset, maintain the partners' shares as well, because they have legal rights to their share of the business and the company. And then the judge will make sure that the law is applied to that asset in a way that protects it, makes it viable, and maintains its income as it did during the marriage.
And one last thing I want to bring up with you is beneficiary designations. And this is something that gets overlooked a lot.
Beneficiary designations are those where you have a retirement account or other accounts that are designated to someone upon your demise when you decease. Especially for retirement accounts, when spouses forget the retirement account and don't deal with a designation, you may find yourself locked into that beneficiary. In other words, if you've made it your spouse during your marriage, you didn't address it in court, you didn't get a court order, then you're divorced, and now you decease. Next thing you know, your now wife doesn't get anything and your previous wife gets it all. So you definitely want to meet with a lawyer to make sure that that doesn't happen and bring it up in discussion that it needs to be addressed.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope this answered some of your questions when it comes to protecting your wealth and assets when going through a divorce. If you have any other questions, please call the Curry Law Group.
Our phone number is 813-653-2500, 813-653-2500.
Thank you so much, Louis Lazaro.
Thank you.
And thank you for being a part of Know Your Rights.